Picture this. It's 1897, deep in the forests of West Virginia. A murder gets solved. Sounds pretty standard, right? But what if I told you the star witness was the victim herself, testifying from beyond the grave? Yeah, this is the absolutely wild true story of the Greenbrier Ghost.
You know, this line from one of the original sources, it just perfectly captures the feeling of this story. It says, "I will tell you the story in all its minute details, as if you are drinking from the same cup of horror." And honestly, that's exactly what we're about to do. So get ready.
All right, so let's set the scene. Like a lot of dark tales, this one kicks off with a new marriage in a tiny cut-off town. But believe me, in Greenbrier, the secrets bubbling just under the surface, they were a whole lot darker than anyone could have possibly imagined.
So I want you to really picture this place. Greenbrier County, West Virginia, 1897. We're talking about a remote village, just swallowed up by mountains and these incredibly dense forests. It's the kind of place where secrets are just easy to keep. That isolation, it's practically a character in this story. It's the perfect spot for a crime to be buried and just forgotten. Well, almost.
Okay, so let's meet the two people at the center of all this. On one hand, you've got Elva Heister. She's just 23, everyone knows her for being kind, and she has this beautiful singing voice. Then there's her husband, Erasmus Shue. He's a blacksmith, older, got a bit of money, but he's also known for having this explosive temper and just this piercing, intense jealousy. You can already see it, right? It's a classic recipe for disaster.
And yeah, that disaster, it didn't take long to strike. All that tension that was just humming under the surface of their marriage, it was about to explode into a mystery that would completely rock this tiny community.
So get this, on the night of January 23rd, a neighbor hears a scream and then this heavy thud from the Shue house. But, it's a small town, people mind their own business, no one does anything. Then, the very next morning, Erasmus just calmly announces his wife died from a heart condition. But here's where it gets really weird. By that same afternoon, she's already in the ground. No autopsy, they didn't even properly wash and dress her body for burial. The sheer speed and secrecy of it all, that's your first massive red flag right there.
So as far as the town was concerned, case closed. A tragic but natural death. But Elva's mother, Mary Jane Heister, she just refused to believe it. And her grief, her refusal to let it go, well, it seems it was about to open a door for justice to come through.
About a week after the funeral, something incredible starts to happen. Elva's spirit, it appears to her mother. And not just once, not like a fleeting dream, no. It happened for 4 nights in a row. This was a persistent, urgent message coming from the other side.
Mary Jane started telling people what was happening, that her daughter would appear in her room night after night, cold and sad, repeating the same horrifying accusation over and over again. "Mama, he killed me. He broke my neck."
Okay, so after 4 straight nights of these ghostly visits, Mary Jane wasn't just grieving anymore. She was convinced, and her absolute persistence in telling this impossible story, it was about to force a showdown between the world of the supernatural and the American legal system. So, 17 days after Elva was buried, Mary Jane walks right into the office of the local prosecutor, a guy named John Alfred Preston, and says exactly this. Now, think about it. It's an unbelievable claim. He could have just dismissed her, right? The ramblings of a heartbroken mother. But there was something about her, something in her conviction, that made him actually stop and listen. And against all odds, he actually agreed to look into it. And that's when this truly extraordinary chain of events kicks off. Picture it. A stormy night. Townspeople gathered around the cemetery, probably whispering, maybe praying, and they dig up Elva's body. The story from beyond the grave was about to get tested by the cold, hard facts of this world.
And what they found was absolutely shocking. The doctor's report, it read like a script written by the ghost herself. First, her neck was in fact broken, just like the ghost said. Second, there were clear bruises and even nail marks on her throat. She'd been strangled. Third, defensive bruises on her arms, as if she'd fought for her life. The ghost's words, "He broke my neck," were suddenly backed up by undeniable physical proof.
With this evidence, Erasmus Shue was arrested, and the whole thing went to trial. But you have to understand, this wasn't just any murder trial. This was a moment in legal history. Think about it. There was absolutely no precedent for allowing what they called spectral evidence, a ghost's testimony, into an American court of law.
So in court, Mary Jane gets on the stand and tells the whole story of her daughter's ghostly visits. The defense attorney tried to tear her apart, of course, but the jury, they were completely captivated. And you have to remember, the time period, the late 1800s, spiritualism was huge. People were much more open to this kind of thing. As one juror said after the trial, they didn't just hear the evidence, they felt a sense of pure evil coming from Erasmus himself. They flat out believed Mary Jane.
And so the verdict came back guilty. Guilty of murder. Erasmus Shue was sentenced to life in prison. And yeah, while the autopsy gave them the physical proof they needed, everybody in that town knew. The investigation never would have even started, the truth would have stayed buried if it wasn't for the testimony from the Greenbrier Ghost. So, the trial was over, justice was served, but the story? The story was just getting started. The legend of what happened here was about to become immortal.
So, what happened to everyone? Well, the verdicts brought a final chilling chapter for each of them. Erasmus Shue, he died in prison just 7 years later, and the guards reported he was often heard screaming that Elva's ghost was right there in his cell with him. Mary Jane, having finally gotten justice for her daughter, died peacefully just 3 years after the trial. And Elva's legend? Her grave is now a historical landmark, and her story is this celebrated local tale, a powerful reminder of a mother's love and a daughter's absolute refusal to be silenced, even by death.
To this day, the story of the Greenbrier Ghost is a huge part of the local folklore, and it leaves us with this one last, kind of haunting question. If you were passing by her grave on a dark, rainy night, and you heard a woman singing, would you turn around? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other truths are out there, just waiting on the other side of silence?